Hey everyone, you probably think that Bitcoin going up and down and up and down and up and down in price is a bad thing, but it's actually a blessing, and I want to explain why. So, as the price of any asset goes up, there are people who want to get on and get off at different places. So, last year I went when I was in Dubai for a Bitcoin conference. I went to the Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world. And I can't remember what the top observation. I went to like the very top observation floor that you can go to, and it's like 157 floors up or something. It was something crazy. Anyway, well, let's use that as an example. Let's think about the elevator on the Burj Khalifa, and let's assume that the elevator actually worked where it could stop at any floor. Let's also assume that anytime anyone inside or outside the elevator pushes a button, that the elevator has to either go back and get the person or has to go back and let them out wherever it is. So that's the way the Bitcoin price works, which is if somebody wants to buy it, or somebody wants to sell, it pushes the price down. If somebody wants to buy, it pushes the price up. Now, obviously, it takes a lot of people buying at the same time to push it up. It takes a lot of people selling at the same time to push the price down, but that's the way it works. So the reason it is valuable for Bitcoin to go up and down a lot or be what's called range bound, which means it's bouncing up and down in a relatively defined range, or it's sometimes called trading sideways. The reason it's valuable to if it's trading sideways is because it establishes a new floor for the price at which people want to be on or off the elevator. Let me explain. Okay, so last year, 2024, we spent 7 months with Bitcoin bouncing back and forth between $55,000 and $70,000. Now, you may have thought that that was a hugely frustrating and painful process, which it kind of was. I mean, I'm right there with you. It's painful when something that should be going up is going sideways for 7 months before it then radically goes up. But the truth is, there was a whole lot of people who wanted to get on or off at those prices. So let's assume, in a 157 floor building like the Burj Khalifa, at least I can't remember how high the observation deck was. That's the number that's stuck in my head. Anyway, and let's assume, for every floor, it's like $10,000. So it's like we're on the fifth floor, the sixth floor, the seventh floor. Now back to the sixth floor, up to the seventh floor. Nope, back to the fifth floor, up to the sixth floor, back to the fifth floor, up to the seventh floor, back to the sixth floor. And we did that for 7 months. Well, the benefit of that is that every conceivable person in the world who wants to get on or off the elevator between the fifth floor and the seventh floor had 7 months to do that last year. If you wanted to buy Bitcoin in the 50,000s or sell Bitcoin in the 60,000s, you had 7 solid months to do that last year. And what that means is when finally there's a catalyst where market adoption finally pushes the price higher, it's much more sustainable because everybody who wanted to get off at a higher price or wanted to buy at a lower price has had the chance to do that in that range. So what if tomorrow the price shoots from 106,000 a coin to 250,000 just in a day? Boom. That's not going to happen. It takes longer for something like that to happen. Let's assume it happened in a day. The first thing that would happen is you would be completely euphoric. You would think this is amazing. I love it. This is the best thing ever because all your Bitcoin would be up, 150% from its current price. But what would immediately happen after that is all of the people who were willing to get off at any of the floors between here and 250,000 would start selling. So, for example, I've been saying for a while now, at some point, I'm going to buy a Tesla Model Y, the latest Juniper edition of the Tesla Model Y. But I don't want to pay more than half a Bitcoin for it. So, if that car costs, I don't know, 60 with full self-driving and everything, let's say it costs $70,000, $60,000, I don't know what. Well, that means somewhere between 120 and 140,000 a coin, someone like me wants to liquidate half of a Bitcoin and buy a Tesla Model Y because my family needs another vehicle. Because one of my kids is turning 16, they're getting a job, we need another vehicle. And I want to drive a Tesla. And I've always driven old junk cars. And at some point, Teslas are super cool and they drive you everywhere. Full self-driving, it's just really cool that you can literally not touch the steering wheel or the pedals and the car will take you anywhere. So if we shot tomorrow to $250,000 instantly, the problem is that means there's a bunch of selling pressure that has yet to unwind. There's people like me out there thinking, oh, wow, that happened fast. I guess I ought to get around to picking what Tesla Model Y 2025 Juniper Edition I'm going to buy. It might take me a week or two to figure that out, but the point being is there is half a Bitcoin in selling pressure out there waiting unless I decide to finance it. I'll probably finance it. That's sort of borrowing US dollars and saving Bitcoin. So I'll probably finance it. But let's assume I wasn't going to finance it and I was going to straight up buy a Tesla. Well, that means there's half a Bitcoin that someone like me is planning to sell that has not happened yet, which means that $250,000 price is not necessarily stable because as the elevator shoots all the way up to the 250th floor, again, I know in my example, the Burj Khalifa doesn't go that high, but let's assume it did. You know, it shoots up to the 250th floor. There's a bunch of people punching those elevator buttons saying, no, I was willing to get off lower than this. And that's going to push the price back down. Now, everybody's going to try to get off at the 250th floor. But as people get off, the elevator is going to go down because the selling pressure is going to push it down until the buying pressure holds it back up. So I know it is super frustrating for Bitcoin to be range bound or trade sideways or grinding sideways or whatever you want to call it, but it's actually extremely valuable for the asset because it means a lot of the very early people that that bought Bitcoin at $10 or $10,000 or $1,000. They had 7 months last year to get off the train, buy whatever they were going to buy, put an expansion on their house, buy a boat, buy a car, send their kids to college, whatever it is that might cause them to liquidate Bitcoin. They had 7 months to do that last year between 55,000 and 70,000. So the same is true now. The longer we spend bouncing between 90,000 and 110,000, the more opportunity it's like, hey, you want to get off at the ninth floor, 10th floor, 11th floor? How about the ninth floor, 10th floor, ninth floor, 11th floor, 10th floor, ninth floor, 11th floor, 10th floor? Like, however long we stay in the $90,000 to $110,000 range, that is how much opportunity everybody that wants to buy in the 90s gets to buy. Everybody wants to get off above 100,000, get off above 100,000, which ultimately makes it just a lot more stable. It sort of builds a foundation that is a lot more sustainable than if it's just bouncing around up and down, sort of shooting up, shooting down. So an example of this was 2017 and 2011. In both 2017 and in 2011, the price of Bitcoin shot up. Sorry, what I said 2017. I didn't mean 2011. I meant 2021. Sorry. Same thing happened in 2013. The last years of bull markets, the strongest bull markets, which is every 4 years, which should be this year, but it was 2013, 2017, 2021, should be again in 2025. 4 year cycle is sort of Bitcoin's natural cycle due to the halving and other factors. If you want to understand that, read The Bullish Case for Bitcoin by Vijay Boyapati. That is the bullish case for Bitcoin by Vijay Boyapati. If you want to understand the 4 year halving cycle and why Bitcoin goes up and down on its way up in the long term, not just in sort of the choppy days and months, but why it goes up in these cycles over 4 years. And this should be the best of the 4 year cycle. If you want to understand that, read Vijay Boyapati's book, The Bullish Case for Bitcoin, and you'll understand exactly why that is. My point is, in 2013, 2017, and 2021, at the very end of those bullish cycles, the price shot up so radically. I mean, literally going from a few $1,000s to $20,000 in 2017, or from going from, a low of four or five, whatever $1,000 in 2020 up to 69,000 in 2021. With those radical price gains, there's just not a lot of opportunity for people to get off or on the train. And so what ends up happening is you end up topping out, you end up spiking super high, but then, not crashing, but you end up having a pretty big price correction off that incredible high because that incredible high just was not sustainable because it went up so fast that there were a bunch of people willing to get off at those prices. They just were. One second. So nothing would make me happier than to grind sideways or trade sideways at any price that's above $90,000. I certainly don't want to go back to grinding sideways between 55,000 and 70,000 because we already did that. So I don't want to do any more of that. I feel like if anybody wanted to get on in the 50s or off in the 60s, they had 7 months last year, and I don't want to repeat that. But if we end up grinding sideways between 90 and 110, or between 120 and 140, or between 180 and 220, that is a very good sign because it means the ability to maintain and sustain those prices is much higher than if we all wake up tomorrow and Bitcoin just goes on an insane tear, just shooting for the stars, which again feels great. It feels euphoric, but it also, the faster it goes up, the faster in the near term it can come back down. Now, long term, it doesn't matter because long term it's going to go up and up and up. And long term, it'll go past $1 million a coin and probably way past $1 million a coin. So in the long term, it doesn't matter. But in the short term, you know, you want that trading sideways, you want that grinding because it establishes a new floor for what this asset is worth. And then we can build on a much more solid foundation than if we just shot for the moon in a day. So anyway, hopefully that perspective is helpful and hopefully it helps you appreciate it when Bitcoin just seems to grind and it's up again, down again, up again, down again, up again, down again. And you're like, oh my gosh, this roller coaster is giving me nausea. The answer is no. It's doing a really good job of getting everybody who wants to get on or off an opportunity to do that, to set a really strong floor so that the next move, price move up